In today's video, we're going to talk about how other people's opinions, other people's reactions to you control your life. Now, you might not feel this way. You might not think that that's really what's happening. You might be thinking like, "No, Jordan, like I'm deciding how to live my life. Like don't second guess this." In this video, I'm going to challenge you to suspend any kind of judgment for the answers you might come up with about yourself and about what's going on in your life. We don't need to judge anything that we're going to talk about today. We just want to become more aware, because if some of this stuff is happening, if other people's opinions are actually controlling you, controlling your life, then we want to know. We want to know how this is playing out, or even how much this is playing out. So just kind of roll with me here, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'm going to have you reflect on the way that life is going right now. And then we'll talk today specifically about some of the tactics that we do use and the things that we do focus on in order to keep people's approval of us, in order to keep people's opinion of us in the positive end of the spectrum. So the first thing I want you to think about is who is in control of where your attention goes, where your energy is going, who's in control of the decisions that you're making, who's in charge of the priorities that you have, just on a day-to-day basis, moment-to-moment basis. Is it you, or is it the people around you? Am I able to say no? Can I say no to the people that are kind of in my inner circle, if you will, my spouse, my kids, my boss, my coworkers, family members when they're needing help, neighbors when they're needing help? And again, helping people is great. But are you able to say no? And if not, if you're kind of thinking through this and realizing, and you maybe have known this before, but you're not really, it's kind of an uncomfortable idea to do that, then let's start to think about who really has control over what you do. Do you resent people? Do you get frustrated with people when they ask you to do things that they shouldn't ask you? You're mad at them that they're asking you to do things, where in this case, that's kind of putting responsibility on them for you to say no, right? In their minds, they are supposed to decide, they're supposed to know that you're busy, that you're overwhelmed, that there are other people out there that could do it, right? Do you feel frustrated with them because they're not recognizing that you don't want to do it? Another question that I want to ask is, when you are trying to make people happy, is it stressful? Is it exhausting? Do you feel exhausted at the end of the day when you've been spending all day doing stuff like, trying to help your kids and getting them places and solving problems and trying to do stuff for your spouse and be supportive of your spouse and trying to, be great with your job and be a good team player and all that? I mean, you're just going at it all day long with all these things that maybe you're thinking right now, Jordan, there's nothing wrong with me, just giving my all and helping people out. That's what good people do. But are you exhausted at the end of the day? Are you burnt out at the end of the day? Right? Do you kind of, at the end of the night, do you just kind of think like, oh man, tomorrow's going to be another one, and you just kind of don't want to go to bed because you don't really want to wake up to do that all over again? Another question that I want you to ask is, or just reflect on, how uncomfortable is it for you and for other people to be upset with you? How uncomfortable is it for you? And it might not be everybody. Certainly, some people it is stressful or upsetting or unnerving when you've got really anybody upset with you. But for some, it might just be your spouse. Honestly, you might not care really about anybody else. It might be your spouse and maybe your boss. But let's just take even just your spouse. How uncomfortable is it when they're upset with you? How uncomfortable is it when they misunderstand you? How uncomfortable is it when they second guess you? If you're resonating with these things, I want to kind of just open the gates a little bit more and give you kind of three categories of tactics, if you will, or things that we put our time and our attention and energy into in order to gain people's approval, in order to gain people's positive responses, to try and get people to give us attention and positive attention. Or if someone's giving you negative attention, maybe it's just getting to neutral, right? But I want to kind of break this down into three categories. And it's kind of the three categories that make up you and kind of make up your experience in a lot of ways. It's the category of who you're being, right? The kind of person you're being, what you're doing, and what you have. Okay, so be, do, and have are these three categories that many, many people use in order to try and gain favor, gain approval, gain positive attention from other people. So I'm going to start with have. We're going to kind of go backwards. Have, do, and then be. When it comes to what you have, are you trying to make money so that you can have a nice house, a nice car, clothes, brand name stuff, designer stuff, all the toys, snowmobiles, boats, ski-doos, right? You have different things in your possession that you use in order to gain favor or get positive attention from other people. And even in that category, I'm actually going to extend this a little bit into your kids. Do you have kids that achieve, right, high marks in school, get good grades in school, who are performing really well in sports, or are really creative, artistic, highly intellectual, very social, like whatever it is? But you're trying to get your kids, right, to be and do things. You want to have kids that be and do things that get you positive attention. The next category is in terms of what you do, right? So it might be, and this is kind of where your own performance is the thing that gets positive favor from other people. So a really common one, obviously, is going to be, hey, I'm going to kind of blow this project out of the water, and I'm just going to go way above and beyond so that my boss thinks a certain thing about me. I'm going to do all this extra stuff, and I'm going to schmooze and woo my customers so that they think a certain thing about me. Hey, I'm gonna play with my kids with their toys on the floor so that my wife thinks that I'm a good dad, or so that my kids think that I'm a good dad. So let's go to the last category, which is who you are being. So this might be, I'm going to be loving towards somebody. I'm going to be kind towards somebody. I'm going to be even charismatic and confident. I'm going to be of service, right? And obviously these things lead into some of the doing, but in terms of like, I'm going to be a good person, right? I'm going to be a good guy so that I can get other people to like me, so I can get other people to think that I am a good person. You'll kind of notice that when you, whether it's what you have, what you do, and who you are trying to be, none of those things, none of those behaviors, none of those material possessions, none of those achievements, certainly none of those characteristics are problematic in any kind of way until you're doing it to try and control other people's opinions of you. Until you're doing it to try and convince somebody or earn or almost like you're entitled to somebody having a certain perception of you. Now, that sounds kind of negative, but it might be innocent, right? Might be just, I just want someone to like me. I want someone to not be mad at me, right? That might be really what the intention is. But you'll notice that in being, doing, and having any of those things with this intention of trying to get a reaction out of somebody is an exhausting, stressful process. It's a stressful, exhausting experience of life. So again, none of those things are bad. None of those things, I mean, you could judge all those things as actually pretty awesome. But when it's done with the intent of trying to get somebody's perception, right, that probably is going to go against your values to a degree. And in another video, I talk about kind of the dark side of relationships and this dynamic of trying to control, manipulate, right, somebody else's thoughts or feelings or behavior towards you. For the purpose of this video, I just want to point out that right now, if you feel like your life is exhausting, trying to make other people happy, good. I'm glad that you're aware that this is what's happening in your life. The answer to any of this is going to be taking back control. Taking back that power that you have in your life to say yes and no to who you want to be, to what you want to do, and the experience that you want to have, even just the material possessions you want to have. But you need to regain control of that. And that's going to start with you being more real and honest and authentic with what you say yes to and what you say no to. Because those decisions that you make need to be based on your own values, your own priorities. The reason why I say that is because that's where fulfillment really comes from. That's where your sense of peace and security in your life comes from, is when you can let go of other people's reactions around you. And again, doesn't mean ignore them, doesn't mean we don't deal with them. That's for a different conversation. But regardless of other people's behaviors, other people's reactions and thoughts and feelings, you need to be you. You need to do you. And you need to have the life that you are wanting to have. Because that truly is what you can control, and what you have the most influence over is what you do, where you put your time, your attention, your energy. That's not going to maybe come easy for you right now. That's okay. I'm here. I'm going to work with you through this. But I want you to just pay attention, answer the questions we went through today, and notice where the control is in your life, where you're not willing to feel discomfort, where you're not willing to let other people be upset with you. And you might have a whole reason, a whole story as to why, and it might make total sense. I don't want to get fired. Don't want my wife to leave me, right? Don't want my kids to hate me. I get it. But just notice, right, where the control is, and notice how it feels to try and make everybody happy. And we'll catch you in the next video.